Okay, so with the new fall update on Grow Garden, there's a couple of things. Now, obviously when the update first came out, their Discord server was just basically being bombarded saying L update. And to be quite honest, I kind of wish that what they had here was to submit fall mutated things. Mostly because it feels like it's going to be a task chore to pretty much do all of this here. And if you should not like one of the tasks, you can go ahead and re-roll it. But it feels like I ended up re-rolling more than I ended up doing submissions for this. Now, at the very beginning, it did say 9 hours, so I have to wait 9 hours for 2 rewards. Which honestly, in the grand scheme of things, at least you're going to be doing it like 2 times a day, if that. If you have enough time in your day at least. But it's not mostly this that I'm actually kind of looking at finally, but kind of going over the stuff that we found as bugs recently. Some of these things should have been announced like a while ago if this was like going to be their plan pretty much. Go ahead and take a look at the guide real quick, and we are going to go to plants. This is something that they went ahead and posted on their Twitter, and I want to say also their Discord server. This is called Crop Mastery. You're going to notice these little crowns right on top of them. Pretty much in a short-term thing, harvesting plants, increase the mastery in the garden guide. The higher your mastery, the bigger weight and growth multiplier that crop will have. So if anybody was noticing none of your crops were like growing to like a specific size using sprinklers and stuff, this is probably the main culprit for this. So right now, even though I have planted like a ton of like seeds in the past, it's not going to count for any of these that are currently inside of here. So the growth multiplier is going to just be 1% for my maple resin. The weight multiplier is also going to be the same thing. And you have to do this for every single plant that you want for these traits to actually be applied to that specific crop. So more is being added to this. Now, we're going to go ahead and explain how this is going to be a good and a bad thing. It's going to be 50-50 to be honest. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the good. It gives players a variety of things to go ahead and do for this in the game. Should you be brand new inside of here and you've never experienced Grow Garden, this is probably a really nice thing. It gives you things to do. You have all of these different things that you have in your garden guide, such as your player profile on how many levels you've gotten so far, your achievements, which are derived for the events here, your pets, and your plants, which are both pretty much the same thing. Now, this was really good on paper, and it's still a progressional thing that I'm working on, though I ended up just kind of forgetting about it because it wasn't something that I'm going to constantly remember. It's going to be finished eventually. To be honest, I'm surprised there's not a cooking one at this point because it feels like something like that would also be additionally added in here because it seems like it would be added. Then you have your pets, your cosmetics, foods, mutations, stuff like that inside of here. It gives you a daily quest section, which you can earn things from here as well. But for a player that's been playing Grow Garden for quite some time, the more that you look at it, the more that it just seems more congested. Less is better. Now, I know that we already spoke about the good things, but primarily it's just going to be derived for giving a variety for a new player, and maybe if you have boredom playing the game and you have something to do pretty much. But personally, the more that you add inside of here, the more that it just ends up just being congested and you just don't know what to do exactly. It feels like it's giving you more and more and more every single update, and it feels like it's becoming a little overwhelming, if that makes sense. Because not only do we have the garden guide, but now we have this over here, which is your event section. You have your fall activities, which is something else entirely different. That's also something that you have to work on as well, so long as you want the rewards from this system here. And if you want any of the event items, you have to submit something at the very least to be accounted for when the fall bloom starts. So hear me out. Pets are really easy to get to an extent, depending on how you get your eggs right. You can go ahead and hatch them, farm them, and then trade them. I think the game is really heavy on the pet aspect, more so than the actual crops. I think adding something like this as a system just kind of locks the player from wanting to actually do anything for the crops. Sure, you might have like a variety of players that actually might like do the pet stuff more than the plant stuff, but I'm more of the plant person more than I am the pet person. So when I see the plants kind of being locked behind a wall for something, then that has to be worked on progressively. So if I want to get something better for, let's say for an example, a cocoa mango, I have to work on this. Plant, harvest, or sell this plant to increase its mastery. I think I do have a cocoa mango here with me, so I can go ahead and plant this out real quick so we can go ahead and see. I am just hoping that this growth bug does not still exist. That is my only concern. So we're going to go ahead and plant it here. And yes, we are going to use every single sprinkler as much as it scares me to use this. Okay, so we do have it growing out right now, so we're just gonna go ahead and wait for it. And why not? I'm just gonna go ahead and water it too. I could be using my mooncats and I could be using my triceratops, but like I just feel like I don't want to go ahead and remove my mice because I want to go fast. And it's moving pretty quickly, so I'm not too worried about that. Okay, so it's completely grown out. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh. So now we just have to wait for the cocoa mangoes to grow up here, and we're gonna go ahead and see what ends up happening. I have every single sprinkler that with this would affect it, even the sweet soaker. So I want to see what the average size would be for this now that we have this new system here, and see if it's that much of a big difference for it. Okay, so I'm kind of like looking at the size of how it looks right now, and I'm gonna be quite honest. If there was a size change to how much this ends up getting bigger, pretty much, there's not that much of a difference in size compared to my original Cocoa Mango, which I do have. So I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to go ahead and try to at least get a capture of what we have right now during this update, and the last Cocoa Mango that I grew out completely. So I'm gonna wait until this is fully grown out, and we'll go ahead and compare the sizes real quick, because to me, at least to me, it just doesn't look like that's that much of a difference. Oh, for the sake of science, I'm gonna have to do this because it's gonna be so hard to tell what is what. So I'm gonna have to unfavorite this, and I'm gonna have to pick it. I have picked it out. Oh my gosh. That's okay. I can always get like a new one if that... I can't believe that I just did that. All right, so we have this big Cocoa Mango. So I guess the nice thing about this is once you do harvest those, I ended up increasing it by 1%. Now, this may or may not have players actually request they actually buff how fast this goes, but we'll end up seeing what happens. This means everybody is going to have to really grind what plant they want to go ahead and have that multiplier on. Again, like I said, some players might like this, some players might actually hate this. This also probably explains why certain pets were actually nerfed, especially when it came to the size multipliers. This might include the mooncat, the orange tabby, any pet that increases the size of something. And same thing might go with the sprinklers. Then again, I'm not 100% sure, but this probably explains a lot of stuff that ended up happening silently and us just finding out today. Alrighty, so it looks like all of the Cocoa Mangoes are fully grown out. So I'm gonna have to pick out the biggest one that I can go ahead and see. And I'm gonna be honest, I think it might be this little guy right here. Okay, so this is the moment of truth. Now, we already... Oh, okay. Okay. There we go. Perfect. Nope. Okay, so we already know that there was a massive change in how big your plants will end up getting, whether you're using sprinklers or pets. This is the Cocoa Mango that I was able to grow before any of these changes were implemented. I actually don't even know how heavy this is, I'll be honest, but we're gonna go ahead and compare the two because we do have two currently out. So the big Cocoa Mango, the new Cocoa Mango. You know what? There is a significant difference between the two. This is 102 kilograms. I'm not sure entirely how big this one is because it just doesn't say, but I would say the one that I have currently right now is literally almost double the size. What I also didn't even notice was the expressions on the Cocoa Mango are completely different. You have this one that looks really sad, it's upset looking, versus the one that's here like it looks confused. So yes, I definitely feel like this has been changed drastically to the point where it is noticeable now. So honestly, yeah, that's a big difference now between the sizes of the Cocoa Mangoes. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull out these over here, and we're gonna compare those to the current one that I have right now. So new Cocoa Mango, new Cocoa Mango, new Cocoa Mango, old Cocoa Mango, old, new. These are very big differences between the sizes. So there is a huge difference between seeing what was previously done versus the new mastery for all of these plants here. However many plants there are in the game, every single one of these has to be worked on for any type of multiplier for that specific plant. Now, I know a lot of people feel very differently about Grow Garden in this current season. Grow Garden isn't even a year old yet, at least from what I've seen so far. The game just came out like when? During the springtime of this year. So I know everybody's gonna feel a little different. I feel a little indifferent between the two. I'll still play the game. Sure, it might take me a while to actually complete most of these things, and especially if they had to turn back and figure out a solution for pretty much all of these glitches that were going out in the game, such as using certain pets to make like these huge colossal crops. And if this was the solution to go ahead and introduce a mastery and pretty much softly nerf everything, and I mean softly, I'm gonna use that term very lightly, okay? This is like a nice way of saying like, hey guys, we really got rid of all of this stuff because guess what? We have a mastery now. I'm just gonna say it like that. It is what it is at the very end of the day. Now, I know a lot of people feel very, very strongly that the game is very much so grow a pet, or kind of losing the concept of grow a garden, where you just go in, it's a casual game, you can go ahead and grow things, and that's pretty much it. But now, to me at least, it feels like it's heavily relied on tasks, which I mean, it is what it is. You have to do things in order to get rewards and stuff, which I mean, that's pretty much every single game on Roblox. But I guess you want to make it fun. And this is where everybody says that Grow Garden is becoming extremely repetitive, and I understand and I see why. You wake up at whatever time you wake up, an hour early for the admin abuse. You do admin abuse, you get really OP items from the shops. Then you do the said event. Now, whatever the event consists of will make or break the update. And I know everybody felt very differently about the past few updates being very stale, I could say, boring, unsure of what they really wanted to do during those times, especially when it came to how players pretty much obtained those prizes. The fairy event definitely was one of those where it was really hard to get certain things. You had to get a astronomical amount of fairy jars and do a lot of steps and processes to not really get too many rewards out of it. This one doesn't feel like it's in the same caliber as that, but I do know that you do have to be pretty active actually doing any of these to actually get anything really good out of it. So I mean, this is totally dependent on the player. Definitely, I would say if this was just give him fall mutation stuff, then absolutely I wouldn't be here like complaining about any of this. But because you kind of have to focus on every single one of these things until you get to a prismatic reward before the time frame, this might be a little difficult depending on who you are. Whether you're in school or at work, this may or may not be something that's doable by everybody. However, again, like I always do, I reiterate everything that I explain. I'm not here to really criticize how the developers or how anybody's pretty much laying out their game. I, however, will say the more that this is repeated over and over and over again, the more stagnant players will kind of realize that they don't really like doing the same tasks over and over and over again. Definitely, I would say, really sit there and kind of get an idea of what your community wants, and especially if there's a ton of bugs that they need to be fixed as soon as possible. I know it may not seem like a lot, right? Because as soon as you go into the game, there's literally like, what, 6 plots? 3 people on one side, technically 3 people on this side, an event in the middle, and the plots here. Theoretically, this is your entire game. So, of course, everything that surrounds it has to be done in such a specific way that makes all the players happy. And that's the only thing I could really say. Of course, you guys can go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments down below. And as always, make sure you do like the video, as it does help me come out with more content like this for you guys. What do you want to see in Grow a Garden, and how do you think they should come out with their updates? Because I do see a lot of people talking about how this game is actually just tanking in players. I've seen people leave comments saying that they've quit the game already and they're moving on to another game entirely. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, and I will see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.